What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Ash Vibe Show. My name is Malik Harris.
Mackie Tolchini.
And this is where you come to
Vibe with the tribe.
A lot on our minds after watching Act 2.
Oh, man, you're telling me.
Of Arcane. Man, so much happened. I've been wanting to get into this video for a while. There's so many different videos that I could have chosen from. We do a lot of Necrit stuff up to this point, but I have other videos and other pieces of information that I would also like to start including, so you can just get like a more rounded amount of knowledge from multiple different people. That way people can form their own opinions. I know a lot of us like to, watch something and then run to Necrit and then review it, and then I'll see people come back and, recite exact quotes from his perspective. But I think it's important for everyone to have their own perspectives as well. And that's something we value a lot as creators, is just having our own insight. So when we watch things like Arcane, we will go and watch that, but we're not running to go see what Necrit thought. We're more creating our own hypothesis and theories and stuff like that, and then kind of talking to the community and building our own space that way. So I just wanted to say that because I think that's really important. We love Necrit. We love a bunch of the different creators, and I see a lot of different people who are also bringing a lot of good knowledge. Necrit's pretty consistent, though, I'm not going to lie.
He is.
But yeah, like I said, this is, from our perspective, we like to give more of that writer, just strictly storyline perspective of these concepts as well. So yeah, that's all the intro I got, really.
And to kind of add on that too, not only do we kind of look at Necrit to kind of see a bunch of, not what he thinks or what he says, but we liked a lot of the insight and a lot of the lore that he brings and does for a lot of the League of Legends community. So it's like to kind of see how this person or character developed into what they are in the game.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I like, and I like to kind of see and look at. So when we were watching Arcane and doing all these things, we kind of had an idea of what this person or character was going to lead up to, but they put a little twist onto it where you didn't think it was oh my gosh, I would never thought it would went this way, and it was good and cool and beautiful, and it's it kind of sparks the ignition in our heads, kind of what's the next right for this next person, or for what leads up to their dramatic moment, and Arcane does a very perfect job at that, and they really, really, really hit the hammer on the nail with that. So
and I want to know your guys' thoughts too when it comes to stories, right? Because it's just like with video games. Sometimes video game adaptation, sometimes the storyline of the video game, you watch it back in cinematic form, it's good. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, it's exactly like how it was in the game. That's cool. I personally, I was gonna say,
there's some video games.
I was gonna say personally, that's not my style. I feel like Last of Us did it in a pretty good way, right? Where they hit a lot of the checkpoints, but there's a lot of routes that they deviated and did other things, and it keeps it engaging and interesting, and you have to sit there and wonder oh, this is how it happened in the video game. Are they going to stay true to that, or are they going to deviate and do something different? And if they do something different, are they going to compromise the IP, or are they going to add something to it? And I just think that's really important. So I think League kind of branching off, making Arcane the canon universe, and then getting people to go from Arcane backwards is better overall for the franchise, you know what I mean, than trying to keep everything consistent to the lore, because otherwise we're just watching, we're watching the story already knowing what's going to happen, and then, you know what I mean? I think at that point I feel like it's almost just a superiority thing, because it's I know all this information that you guys don't know, and I don't know. There's something about that throws me off, personally. So
and to kind of comment on that, I don't think it's anything to be superior, all knowing and stuff like that. Anybody and any one of you could go in and do your own research and do all these things and kind of help us and help other people understand. But it's the drive and the purpose of you going and doing these things. That's what really I think is beautiful, because you're that interested and that committed, and you love the artistic form of games that you got to deep dive now, and that's I think what makes a beautiful, awesome community League of Legends.
Yeah.
But enough of that.
Yeah, I was
what
gonna
are
say,
we watching?
Talking about a lot of stuff. We just opened up this way differently than we have another video. But Arcane got us, just all in these different mental places. But today we are watching a few different videos. We are actually diving into the lore of Noxus and the 3 pillars. So, I wanted to do 2 separate videos. One was going to be the Black Rose, and one was going to be this, just because there's so much information. And I mean, the organizations are really, they need to be different stories, because there's so much information there. So we started with this one. We'll dive into Swain and his lore, and then we will dive into LeBlanc, Darius, and we're also going to throw Katarina in there. Katarina?
Katarina.
Okay. I'm I've been lost this whole time. Okay, yeah. then we're gonna dive into Katarina too, because she just kind of is in the mix of all these different things, and I feel like, you know, she's not one of the three pillars. We know this, but she's an integral part of Noxus, and you know, she's always with Darius and whatnot. So yeah, let's dive into this.
Hello everyone and welcome! Last time we had a look at Noxus as a city. We learned about its leadership, its motives and its people. But now we will get into specifics. So let's have a look at Swain, the Noxian Grand General. Born into a patrician family, one of many to exist since the first walls were raised around Noxus, Jero Swain seemed destined for a life of privilege. The noble houses had played a key role in Borem Darkwill's rise to power, stoking rhetoric that their proud heritage was the nation's greatest strength. However, many hungered for greater influence, plotting against Darkwill in a secret cabal united by nothing more than the symbol of a black rose. Uncovering their intrigue, Swain personally executed the most prominent conspirators. Among them were his own parents, whose whispers of a pale woman had first alerted him of the dangers to Noxus, which he valued more than house or kin. They sought a power, a shapeless voice crackling in the darkness of the immortal bastion, something like a raven's call. For exposing the Cabal, Swain was granted a commission in the Noxian army, far from anything he had ever known. There he learned firsthand that the Empire was not strong because of Noxians, as he had believed, but because of the way it could unite all men in spite of their origins. On the front lines, a foreign slave could be the equal to a highborn noble. But still, Swain found only darkness in the wake of each battle, clouds of carrion crows. After securing the western borders, Swain's own reputation was secured in Shurima. There his forces raised countless Noxtora above the desert sands. Yet, in time, it became clear that greed was the sole purpose driving the Empire forward. Fighting wars on too many fronts, lusting over magical relics, the aging Borem Darkwill was clearly growing unhinged. When Noxus invaded Ionia, Darkwill began to move even more brazenly, retasking entire warbands to scour the land for anything rumored to extend a mortal lifespan.
So yeah, all this is BN before Noxus, so yeah, this is back when Shurima still had the Sun Disk on and everything was going, you know, great. And then he's running all this different stuff, and then it goes to the point of them taking over Noxus, and then from there it's Swain and the three pillars, right? Okay, cool. Just trying to make sure I'm thinking there's like 10,000 years, you know, what, 9,000, 10,000 before you even get up to them starting the official, you know, Swain's Noxus Empire, and then
Swain was
you have 1,000 years
after the creation of Noxus, though.
That's what I'm just saying. It's 10,000 years before
okay.
him, and then he comes in place, and then there's only like 1,000 years or something like that, I think.
Yeah.
And again, you guys make sure to correct this with all these different plots. The comments always help us like fill in the gaps, because generally I think we're learning a lot of stuff fast, but sometimes like things get mixed up, or you know, all that good jazz. It's interesting to see them like show them in Shurima a little bit more too, because there's just so many parallels with that, especially now in Arcane.
With Swain's forces depleted, it became nearly impossible to engage the enemy. Finally, at the Battle of the Placidium, after luring the local militia into what should have been a trap, Swain's war host was overrun. His veterans were routed, and Swain was gravely wounded. His knee shattered, Ionian blades cleaving through his left arm. As he lay on the verge of death, a raven approached to feed, and Swain felt an old familiar darkness press upon him again. But he would not let it take him. He could not. Staring into the bird's eye, he saw reflections of the evil strangling the heart of Noxus. A black rose, the pale woman, and her puppet emperor. Swain realized he had not defeated the hidden cabal, and they had betrayed him to what should have been his death. After seducing Darkwill, the man they failed to overthrow. All this was glimpsed, not in the mind of a raven, but something more. The power his parents had been seeking, the demonic eyes blazing in the dark. Cast out of the military for his failure, considered nothing more than a cripple, Swain set about uncovering what truly lay within the immortal bastion, an ancient entity, preying upon the dying and consuming their secrets, as it had attempted to consume his own. Swain stared into that darkness, seeing what even it could not, a way
This is interesting.
to wield it. Though his meticulous preparations took many years, Swain and his remaining allies seized control of Noxus in a single night. Physically restored by the demon, he crushed the Dark Will in full view of his followers, leaving the
Jeez.
throne shattered
Damn.
and empty. Swain's vision for
That's
the
epic.
future of Noxus is one of strength through unity. He has pulled back the Warhost from Darkwill's unwinnable campaigns, and, with the establishment of the Triferix, ensured that no individual can rule unopposed. He embraced any who will pledge themselves to the Empire, even the Black Rose. Though he knows, in secret, they still plot against him.
That's what
Gathering
started
knowledge
other
as the demon did
places.
before him, Swain has
join.
foreseen far greater dangers lurking just beyond. However, many Noxians secretly wonder if the darkness they face will pale in comparison to the dark things Swain has done. The sacrifices are only beginning for the good of Noxus.
That kind of
Okay.
him doing that with the Black Rose kind of reminds me of that quote. My enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Oh yeah, yeah. The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
kind of cool. It's kind of nice to see that he brought the Black Rose secret society that betrayed him into his own circle, because now that way he could not only use them as like his resource, but he could also kind of like have that other hidden gem that kind of like make sure if any like outsources, he'll be able to hear it, and then he'll come to his own council, and not only is Noxus not going to be ruled by one individual like he said, it's going to be, you know, have three other people, or the three pillars to kind of like help keep the Noxus in order.
Doesn't, or maybe I'm confused, but he didn't. I don't. He brought in the Black. I don't think him and the Black Rose
Or
worked together,
allies.
huh?
Right now he just is saying they brought her the Black Rose Society in. I thought
Oh, I feel like
as his
I feel like he's trying to take down the Black Rose. Like that's part of like the lore and stuff like that. I think he brought in Darius and LeBlanc to build the three pillars instead of because they were ruling their own territories. I think I don't know.
I thought
This is what I
LeBlanc
thought.
was part of the Black Rose.
Well, she is, but that no one really knows that. Like we know, but like they call it like she goes by the Pale Lady. She goes by
Right.
like all these different things.
Okay.
The leader of the Black Rose, is technically unknown, but people have just surmised.
Speculating it
Yeah,
was,
that
okay.
it's clearly LeBlanc. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, and this is the part where like us learning lore in so many different places. Why it's so important to go through these videos because
Yes.
it just bridges everything on the timeline. Because yeah, like I said, it's been a few months, 3-4 months, and we've just like really crunched in all this information. So again, clarity, because I might be wrong in what I just said. We might get the answers later in this video too, but
brain's
But
about
yeah.
to explode.
right.
Like the stuffed animal you overstuff and it just.
He arrived in the
Right.
camp only
Bust one
moments
scene.
before the strategy council was to begin, flanked by small honor guard, each handpicked from the Trifarian Legion. They remained at the entrance as I watched him approach. Some men cast shadow greater than themselves, but few could bring a darkness such as this, one that circled above us and hungrily caught. In a way, the ravens that seemed to follow him around the camp were a grim reminder of every warrior's fate. The tethered cloth in their beaks a match for the state of our own banners. Yet, as he strode into the remains of the
Jeez.
war tent, I realized I had not prepared myself for how truly mortal he looked. There was grey in his hair, framed by a crimson sky choking on ash. His battle-worn armor gave way to a functional coat, and he kept his arm tightly within its folds, as I imagined one of his lineage might. I smiled, for he was still, at his heart, a gentleman. He wore no signs of rank beyond the telltale scars of a soldier who had seen his share of bloodshed. There were many gathered now for the council who demanded more fear and respect, swaying their war hosts with powerful displays of strength. Each of them seemed more than capable of breaking the man before us. But somehow, this was the man who led us all, the Grand General of Noxus. Looking at him, I could feel there was
Okay.
something I could not place, no matter how closely I looked. Something truly unknowable, perhaps. Perhaps it was because there was something unknowable about this man that so many flocked to his side. Whatever the draw, Jero Swain stood before us now, and it was far too late for me to turn back. 5 war hosts had marched onto the rock-ruined plain,
Who
but
are
it
these
had been only a matter of weeks before the locals
Just
had
other,
shattered our positions. They
people within
blasted
his,
through our
ranks
hastily
or
constructed
underneath him.
berms with
Randoms.
explosive
Okay.
powder, mined from the hills that seemed even more barren than those of home. Disaster had built upon disaster, until Swain himself had no choice but to intervene. I had made sure of that. For months I had prepared. I had sent war masons deep into the mines. I had mapped every detail, every conceivable twist of the land, and the fates upon which Noxus now balanced. The whispers that gave each moment shape. My ear itched at the memory of the pale woman's words, of the moment she first commanded me, and gave voice to our plot. Everything was in place. I had accounted for it. Here, where the earth opened into a maze of canyons impossible to escape, I and I alone would determine the future of the Empire. After all, was that not what Swain had called upon this council to do?
My trusted generals.
Swain said finally. The power in his voice rang out like the drawing of a blade. He paused, as if giving us a moment to test ourselves against the keen edge.
Tell me how Noxus may prevail.
There are 12 warbarks here in the hills. Leto began, pointing to a spot on the map already worn white by his attention, each drawn by a basilisk. Send them before the warbands and we'll be marching over the enemy dead. Those beasts would rot with a hedge of rusty spears if we let them. He smiled, pleased at his own cunning. But Swain was more concerned with the wine being poured into his glass. Will it be poison? His eyes seemed to ask as he peered around.
Okay, hold on. I just need to make sure that I'm not lost a little bit. So at first I thought he was like, it was from his perspective. So I'm guessing this guy over here, the blue. It's like from his perspective when he walked in the room.
Yeah.
He saw Swain.
Yeah,
Okay, okay.
That's what it did. And then it showed these 3 guys when they all came into the war room.
Okay, okay. And so why was he talking about this being his decision and his decision? Is he leading this group of people?
He is coming up with the attack plan right now. And then their leader, Swain, came walking in. So now they're discussing right now the battle plan of what's about to commence right at this moment.
Okay, okay. And I guess from my just mentality wise with him being like the vision and stuff like that, him being the plan guy, I guess when they started out it kind of confused me because I'm like, wait, I thought it was Swain talking about it, and then it kind of jumped over here and I'm like, why are these guys both coming up with a plan? Yeah, so and that's probably where the story.
So right now it's the dude in the orange is talking because he has a text at each color. Who's talking? So that's kind of what I'm getting.
All right, I appreciate you, man, because I'm over here like, wait a minute, I think I started out off track and now I'm just
From the table. I
scrambling.
stared at my
Back to you.
reflection in his armor. I would betray nothing of my intent.
We can scarcely control the basilisks ourselves.
Swain finally murmured, carefully regarding the fine Ionian vintage.
Imagine even a single explosive, dropped by a sapper within earshot of the beasts, and then tell me, in your imagination, who runs first, the basilisks with their tails between their legs, or your vaunted war host?
We scorched the earth then. Myla petitioned before Leto could respond, the words flying wildly from her mouth. Set fire to the pitch they've laid to burn on our advance. Drive them out of those damn mines.
the color of the text
Swain
is
laughed.
crazy.
Yeah.
We came
I did not
here
catch
for
that
the
at
very
first.
earth you would burn, though I suppose it is too much to expect you to know the uses of its saltpeter.
He swirled the wine in his glass, betraying a hint of disappointment.
All you have done so far is bury your own men with it.
The red blades are still sharp. Jonah spat impatiently from the shadows where he lurked, the darkness seeming almost bright against his Shuriman skin. We'll enter the mines after dusk, take out their leaders. Clean or messy, it doesn't matter.
An admirable strategy.
Swain laughed.
But those leaders are not soldiers. Not yet. Our enemy here merely follows whomever bellows the loudest. Kill one, and there will be 3 bellowing by morning.
I laughed, nodding to the frowning leader of the Red Blades. For a moment I was afraid you'd find a way for us to actually win, Jonet. Silence fell around the table. The candles were burning low beside the map. This was my moment. The pale woman would be pleased. I would say her name as I sent our Grand General to oblivion. The truth is, you cannot win this battle, I continued. No one can fight death, not even the ruler of Noxus. Darkwill showed us that. Swain and the others watched as I carefully drew the flint striker from my tunic. The fuse line was already in my other hand. Ledo, aging hero of the Siege of Fenrath, bristled.
Damn.
Granth, what are you doing? He growled, glancing down at the crude demolition charge I had carefully positioned under the table. Barely an hour before.
Damn.
You would threaten the Grand General. This is treason. Still, none of
Okay,
them
this
dared
makes
to
sense.
approach me. I held the striker over the fuse, ready. Except someone was laughing. It took me a moment to realize who it was.
And there, General Granith is the only one who has the right of it.
Swain chuckled, smoothing the wrinkles from his coat.
He alone understands. The rest of you, you see a battle and ask what you must do to avoid defeat. But some battles cannot be won. Sometimes the only strategy is to burn, to change into the flames knowing full well you will die, but that 20,000 march behind you, and that behind them there is a greater power.
He let his coat fall open.
True Noxian
Reveal.
mentality.
To reveal,
Granith and I,
he said with a cruel smile.
we always look for what must be sacrificed in order to win.
Myla lunged for my trembling hands. Ledo too. But it was Swain's inhuman grip that clamped me around my throat, hefting me from the ground, the unlit fuse forgotten.
If only you could tell her yourself how you failed.
The Grand
Damn.
General whispered, his voice rumbling with the wrath of eons.
If only she too could heed the wisdom of the dead.
The voice
I
effects.
tried to scream then,
Yeah.
to confess it all, to somehow beg for forgiveness. But there is nothing now, save for the soft murmur of whispers. I spill my secrets, this tale, into your ears, fading like the rustling of wings, as the raven cries its carrion call. And that was the story of Swain as we know it from the mind of Granth, a former Noxian general. I am a little bit sad that we didn't learn how Swain actually acquired the powers of the demon, but it seems like
I was
it
just
may
thinking
be
the same
explained
thing.
later, especially since we now know that other characters like Irelia may be involved in Swain's story. But even without that part,
Okay.
Swain was turned into an awesome leader who's secretly fighting another leader through politics. However, that wraps it up for this video. So if you enjoyed it,
Okay,
feel free
nice.
to rate it and subscribe for more lore and news. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Discord if you'd like to chat. Our streams are now more frequent, so if you'd
'em
like
out.
to join ARAM,
Check 'em
a
out.
lore battle, or any other
Link in the bios, all the stuff. Go to Necrit's channel, bro. So I'm gonna speed that part up. Yeah, it's interesting because this video is how old is this?
It's 14 minutes.
Or how old? 6 years ago. Okay, so I imagine after 6 years, there's definitely probably more lore that has developed. Yeah, I imagine after 6 years, his bio's probably been updated and stuff like that. So that's something I actually want to go and kind of explore a little bit more now, actually. And that's something I actually look out for in the future too. I mean, it's still a good story. It still captures a moment in time. I don't feel like they've rewritten it. If they have, let us know. But yeah, I definitely would like to expand because I feel like I didn't really get that much from that. You know what I mean? I feel like I got his a sample of his personality and mentality and ethics and stuff. But that's one of those things where I almost feel like I have to see him in cinematic universe brought to life fully, like his full demeanor, because I feel like the description it only can do so much justice. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Like seeing the intensity of Mbessa and how she is, I like compared to her. I wonder how intense he is. He's more calm. Is he more aggressive? Is he more?
He's probably very,
know.
very calm in the room full of other people, just
Seems like
because
it, yeah.
he's just that leader.
Yeah, and he's a
I
vision
mean,
guy, the plan guy.
For sure, because I'd be that kind of character development if I had a whole entire mission to go out overseas and get ambushed myself and just get annihilated.
Yeah. It
So
makes
then
me feel
coming
like he's
back
the warrior, especially with the arm now. I
Yeah.
feel like he's probably he's not just the brain. You know what I mean? He's definitely a combat general, the Grand General. So.
And I think he also has to stay calm, cool, and collective because he doesn't want that demon form or that demon that he has to possess him. And kind of
That's the thing. They really didn't go into any of that, like how that works or anything. I think that's kind of what Noxus or Necrit was saying.
Hey
too.
man, if I know if I had a demon arm and if I had any sort of emotion that would trigger it to go off, I'd be.
But you don't know if that's even how it works. I'm just saying, like they didn't explain any of that. Like that's how it works in other shows. You know what I mean? But like, You know, this isn't Raven from Teen Titans. You know, this could be a whole nother thing.
Hey man, I don't got no
I don't even
pissed
know.
off dad, but I mean, if I did, you know, I mean, you know what I mean?
Then I'd be the same way. Yeah, if you guys know of any other videos that kind of dive into more of his lore, you know, post this video, then, you know, after we post this, whatever, then definitely let us know in the comments, because that would be cool to go and check out some more of that, even if it's just in our own personal, and then come back with a second video. Jesus Christ. And then come back with a... Jesus Christ.
As her ass
Come
Metri
back
on
with
Zithos.
with a separate video, and then just kind of talk about what we listen to on our own time and everything like that. I feel like we're on the same page now, because so basically Swain was a younger royal noble house person, and then he basically discovered the Black Rose, or tried to uncover him. And then he exposed them to, you know, the kingdom or whatever thing like that, and he thought he was going to get some type of
recognition and some higher ranking within the house or within the rank stuff.
Yes. And then he ended up not getting what he thought he was going to do, and then he started being in the military and stuff like that. Went to Ionia. In Ionia, he got betrayed, which, like, I don't know if, I don't think they specified who he got betrayed by or anything like that. Probably Black Rose or something like that. Oh yeah, or Goodwill, and that's why he came back after losing his arm and stuff like that, getting the dark spirit that's in the Mortal Bastion, it, like, resides in there or some shit like that.
That's how he got his arm?
Because he had his arm cut off in the war.
Right.
Yeah. And then the Mortal, the dark energy basically replaced it. That's why his arm looks like that.
Is that why he went down to the pits down below within Noxus? To get that power?
No, he got it from the battlefield, I think. Yeah, he got it from the battlefield, and that helped him get his arm back, build him up again, and then he goes back to Noxus, then destroys it takes over the throne, and then decides, like, hey, we're not going to run it like that because there's greed and blah blah. Right. And then he finds the other pillars, builds them up, and then, you know, I think, like, far future, he embraces the Black Rose, but I don't know if they like are really working together. I think, and you guys, again, correct me, but I feel like it's one of those things where, you know, we'll get into Mordekaiser and everything like that, but with Mordekaiser kind of being the main threat, it seems like they're only working together because they just don't have, he doesn't probably have the resources to, if he does destroy the Black Rose, then all of a sudden Noxus loses a big pillar of strength in Noxus or whatever the case is. Yeah. So I think they're all kind of working together subconsciously to prepare for Mordekaiser. So
if he ever returns.
Yeah, if he ever returns and stuff like that. And that's why they're going around and finding artifacts and stuff like that. You guys fill that in for us if we, you know, we're piecing it together. By the end of this video, we might actually have a clearer understanding. But yeah.
I hope so.
You're right. The next video is titled LeBlanc's Master Plan. Which, yeah, this sounds like this might...
Ooh.
Hope.
Ooh.
Yeah, with the video titled LeBlanc's Master Plan,
is taking the League community
should
by
be
storm.
beneficial.
It's time to cover more lore. If you've seen our last lore video, you'd know that there is no doubt that Mordekaiser changed the course of history. But I would be lying if I said that he was the only important character during his age. Remember that at the same time, Vladimir was also secretly...
Do we need to watch Mordekaiser lore?
From what Necrit's discussing. But, take your time out. This is just how Necrit kind of go through and explain things. Yeah. Not technically we need to watch that video first before this, because this is kind of like LeBlanc's master plan. This is where we think she is the head leader of the Black Rose, and like the pale-faced woman, and the ones whispering secrets and mischief within people's ears.
You guys know a lot of Mordekaiser lore, so if you guys want to fill in some extra things, I think we do generally know that he's like a crazy threat, and he's came back from the dead, and they end up trapping him underneath the Mortal Bastion, and then separating him from his armor and all that good stuff. I think we generally know, but yeah. I got nervous for a minute, panic mode.
Power. And together with him, there was also the person we are going to talk about today. So, not only are we going to cover the base story of LeBlanc, together with her short story, but we also need to talk about Mordekaiser again. With his release, Riot updated Mordekaiser's short story too, which means that the old story that we covered at the end of the last video is technically not canon anymore. And because YouTube doesn't allow me to edit out half of an already uploaded video, why don't we cover the new story today as well? So without further ado, let's start with LeBlanc. LeBlanc is the mistress of illusions. No one really knows her real identity, and she makes sure no one knows who she is for her own safety, because she is the matron of the Black Rose. even though the Black Rose currently takes place in Noxus, it is a Cabal organization that existed far longer than the Noxian Empire itself. It was always scheming from the shadows, manipulating the rich and powerful. Though most cultists never learned the origins of their matron, many know the legends of a pale sorceress who aided the broken barbarian tribes. It was because of her that the barbarians formed an alliance, and together they took down the infamous Iron Revenant. This is important to us, because even though it was never directly confirmed before, now we got it finally confirmed that LeBlanc is indeed the Pale Lady, which is a character you may remember primarily from Swain's story. Since LeBlanc had her pawns even inside Mordekaiser's inner circle, it was easy for her to set up a betrayal. But simply destroying Mordekaiser's physical vessel wouldn't do. She had to neutralize the source of his power, which was the Immortal Bastion itself. Deep below the Bastion, there was something called the Well of Death. This was the real source of Mordekaiser's power. And it was this well that LeBlanc had to seal away. In the end, she succeeded, but she never locked it away completely. Since LeBlanc was the mistress of illusions, her greatest trick was to make Noxus forget any of this ever happened. A couple of generations later, Noxus forgot about the dark power that roiled in its own heart. And together with that, all mentions of LeBlanc herself were burned from the pages of history, around the time of the Rune War. The Black Rose exists now to keep the dark powers in check. Occasionally, a new member joins the cult, usually a mundane noble that could be exploited in the future. But even the most powerful military commanders could only ever serve the cult's true masters, as they fight one another for influence, both in the capital and beyond its borders. For centuries, LeBlanc had served in secret as an advisor to high-ranked officers in other nations, and usually her illusions appeared in many nations at once. By doing this, she makes sure no one really knows which one is the true version of herself. The latest victim of LeBlanc's manipulations was Borem Darkwill, the previous Grand General of Noxus. Even though the Black Rose supported Darkwill's claim to the throne, he refused to listen to the counsel of their hand-picked advisors, which forced LeBlanc to take drastic measures. She had to manipulate Jero Swain into revealing the Black Rose, and she even allowed herself to be executed along with other important cultists. Or at least, so it appeared. Of course, it was just another illusion. In time, LeBlanc reached out to Darkwill herself, and she found out that Darkwill became more and more paranoid. He was afraid of his own mortality. LeBlanc knew the promise of extended life would be like a poison to Darkwill's mind, and so it was easy for her to manipulate Darkwill into starting a war with Ionia. Together, LeBlanc and Darkwill plotted to end Swain's legacy there in the foreign lands. What LeBlanc did not expect, however, is that Swain would be emboldened by the forbidden lore from within the Immortal Bastion. And not only did he manage to survive the invasion of Ionia, he also destroyed Borem Darkwill, and he seized Noxus for himself. But Swain wasn't interested in his own legacy. He was interested in the glory of the Empire. And such man could not so easily be corrupted. That's how LeBlanc finally found a worthy foe.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy.
He just answered everything.
The Black Rose depicts how exactly LeBlanc manipulates high-ranked generals. And it
just slithered her way through all those things and stuff just to have her spot on the Pillar of 3.
I'm glad that we watched that other video before this one, because I almost didn't know which one. I was like, maybe I should watch LeBlanc's plan, but I'm glad, we watched that in the right order.
That's crazy.
Damn, that's so crazy, and it makes sense because Swain's video was from like 6 years ago, and I think this one's still like 5 or something like that.
I think it was 5.
5, maybe 4. But okay, all right, all makes sense to me. Any questions there?
Nah, this is just the pieces are falling into place perfectly.
Yeah, so she did set him up.
My mind doesn't feel so clustered.
Right, clarity.
Reveals how her illusions work. So let's dive into that now. Right at the start, the story introduces a character, General Grant. Now, if you have a really good memory, you may remember General Grant from the short story of Swain. It was the story called The Black Powder Plot. And if you remember what happened there, you know how awesome this story is about to get. Because of this reference, we know that the story happens months before the present day. It is told from LeBlanc's point of view. She was toying with Grant. She sent him down into the catacombs that were now forbidden by the order of the Council. Ever since Swain seized control, he kept the Bastion locked down. Officially, it was to protect the Triforix against those noble houses that opposed its creation. Unofficially, Swain knows that those who enter these forbidden catacombs expose themselves as enemies. Even so, Grant continued lower and lower. LeBlanc whispered into his ears, disguised as Grant's cousin. She assured him that he was the hero of the Gates of Mourning,
Grant's
and
cousin.
as an honored hero, no one would question why he's down there. But Grant knew it wasn't him who won the battle of the Gates of Mourning. It was Swain's Legion. All the other soldiers didn't even need to be there. The Legion would have won regardless. That's why Swain wouldn't even join the celebrations. That's the alleged truth that drove Grant into delving down here. He hated Swain. Then, still disguised as his cousin,
Damn.
LeBlanc
Jeez.
once again assured Grant that he is a true Noxian, and that even she wanted to meet him. After a while, they arrived before the yawning mouth of the
Pale
gate
lady.
in the darkness. Grant almost dropped his lantern in surprise. This was the first time he saw it. Before they continued through, Grant questioned if what they say about her is true, to which LeBlanc in disguise suggested that he should find out for himself. As they walked through the gate,
man.
anonymous
The
figures
setup.
passed by them, going in the other direction. Grant asked the person he knew as his cousin who they were. He learned that all of them shared the same goal. They wanted to see the downfall of the usurper, and that it was better to not know their names or
Usurper.
their faces. Grant questioned this logic. How was he supposed to work with them when he didn't even know anything about them? But all the questions died in his throat when they approached the Great Well of Souls. It lit the room with hues of cold blues and jealous greens. Suspended above the well was a silhouette that every Noxian knows only too well. A husk of lifeless armor depicted
Damn.
in every history book. At that point, Grant had a meltdown. He couldn't believe what he saw. The truth behind the great empire of Noxus. LeBlanc leaned close to confirm his fears. As it had been for centuries, no Grand General, no Emperor or Tyrant can stand unless the mistress of the Immortal Bastion allows it. Then LeBlanc carefully guided Grant away from the side that had paralyzed him, and towards the veiled tombs that lined the passage on either side. Swain must fall, she continued, and their cabal was ready to sacrifice everything to achieve it. After that, LeBlanc pulled back one of the shrouds, and there he was, the desecrated body of Hadrian, Grant's cousin. Somehow, Grant expected
Oh,
this.
wow.
He realized that the
Damn.
person next to him was the Pale Lady, and he didn't even flinch when a second Pale Lady approached him. She was everywhere. She was everyone. Grant's
Jeez.
father and the rest of his family were slaughtered because they stayed loyal to Boren Darkwill. Hadrian gave his life gladly in pursuit of revenge.
Jeez.
All
Wow.
the Pale Lady asked for was to make sure their sacrifices were not for nothing. Soon after that, more copies of the Pale Lady approached him from the shadows. Grant understood now, and LeBlanc didn't even need to point
is
out
Grant
the
right?
empty tomb next to Hadrian's. Grant was ready to give his noble blood for the Pale Lady. With that, LeBlanc cast
This,
a quick
artwork
spell,
is,
marking
tough.
Grant with the sigil of the Black Rose. Now that was the complete base story of LeBlanc. I say base story because if you want to learn more about her actions during other events, we have 2 more older videos with stories where the Pale Lady played a role. There is Swain's complete story, and there is also a story called The Principles of
Okay.
Strength. Now, as we mentioned, the story of
video looked
LeBlanc
long.
and Mordekaiser are connected. And because we
Yeah.
couldn't get a better
I think I
chance
watched
to get into the newest story of Mordekaiser, let's
some of
quickly
that
have a look at
separately.
that too. The new
Nice.
story isn't the longest, but it is interesting because it jumps
final
between
raid.
different times in Mordekaiser's life. The first bit depicts Mordekaiser after he was sealed away by LeBlanc. He was now in his own realm, the afterworld he created, the Mitnaraknun as it was called there. Once it was utterly empty, but now Mordekaiser walked down the path of the fortress he built using the souls of his victims. It was a massive construction of cruel magic and iron
Jesus
will.
Christ.
The next scene then takes us to the moment San Uzal died the first time. It took him a second to realize that he was dead. For a moment he felt sadness in his heart. But then he laughed. Death was what he lived for. He looked around and scanned the distance for the Grand Gateway of Souls that would lead him to the Hall of Bones. But there was nothing but fog and fine sand as far as he could see. Time passed as he endlessly searched around. None of this made sense to him. Soon, confusion melted into disbelief. Disbelief kindled anger, and anger flared into fury. He wasn't sure if the priests lied, if they were false prophets, or if his ancestors simply made an error of judgment. Then he realized none of it mattered. What mattered was the here and now. He conquered the wildlands, led the tribes and built an empire. He conquered all that would oppose him, and death would be no different. The next scene
Talk
takes us
about
to
a
the
time
moment
paradox.
San Uzal was summoned back into the world. Blood spilled around.
Oh, you know how you're like in suspended, like you're not dead and you're not
Oh,
alive.
spin animation.
Yeah, so but you're just there. So he's not in completely like emptiness, but he's like by himself.
It's crazy that he built that whole like layer essentially off the out of the souls of like all the people he's slain, but like there's no other souls in there. You'd think that they would almost be like, I don't know, like sounds of them wailing or something along those lines. You know what I mean? Or people down, the slaves down there. Some craziness. You know, so it's kind of interesting. Yeah, Mordekaiser's a crazy, interesting character.
He just looks tough.
He
He just looks like a badass.
right.
That was just bred for just conquer.
Right. Him and Scion too.
San Uzal,
Honestly.
now known
Scion's
as
crazy.
Mordekaiser, approached the last surviving mage. It required the power of 13 mages to bring the legendary San Uzal back. The last mage tried to stop the Revenant with a fireball of blue flame. It fully engulfed Mordekaiser, but it did not stop him. In fact, Mordekaiser took the
13
hit to
mages.
protect a book known as the Tome of Spirits from the flames. It was another piece of knowledge for his plans. Mordekaiser lifted Nightfall, and with a satisfying crash, the 13th mage joined the rest. In the last scene,
was
Mordekaiser was back
aggressive
in the
sound
throne
effect.
room of the Afterworld. Powerful undead warriors lined the sides of the room, but none of them dared to speak.
Oh, okay.
Only the wailing of weaker spirits lingered in the air. To Mordekaiser, these tormented voices were like music, and they were the loudest near the throne itself. Mordekaiser approached
Okay.
the throne to appreciate the fine work. This single part took more souls to craft than
Jeez.
any other piece in the Bastion. A moment later, with Nightfall in hands, he obliterated the throne, and hundreds of souls echoed in the Great Hall as they all vanished. Now, surrounded only by the strongest of his generals, he was ready for his final reign. He walked out of the Great Hall and towards the heart of his fortress. In its center, there was a relic that tied Midna Raknun to the mortal realm. A relic that was tied to the heart of the immortal Bastion. I am actually glad that we covered this story together with LeBlanc, because I think it is obvious that the Well of Death inside Noxus is the gateway to Mordekaiser's realm. The question is, how big of a storyline can this become? And will Riot be able to bring Mordekaiser
right.
back without destroying half of Valorant? One thing is certain though,
Oh man.
you're all playing chess right now, aren't you?
LeBlanc's crazy. LeBlanc is crazy powerful. But the fact that she's
Yes.
still kind of preparing for Mordekaiser because of how powerful that he is. Because, I mean, if she was... I would imagine if she had enough power to stop him herself, then she would... You know what I mean? She would do it. And she would come out and be like, hey, no one can stop me. But
Right.
it almost seems like she's just aware of, like, how powerful he was before he died. And now that he has, like, this whole entire, you know, army of... Yeah, it's just crazy, man.
All of the dead people he's
crazy.
slain. Going back to just when I was like freaking out, looking at like everything, something just clicked in my head. This is just a theory. The artwork snips and stuff like that they've been promoting with I think it was Vi or somebody like covering their face with their fingers above their head, and then the background of it showed the shadow with the horn, the crown almost like deal spiking up, almost like imitating somebody. And when I saw this, I thought it was like the Lord of the Rings. I'm like,
What,
why are they putting this two together right now?
This is Arcane promo art?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll probably try to throw it up on the screen.
At least that's what I thought when I saw it. I saw the shadow, and then I didn't think anything of it. So then when we just watched that, I saw his crown like more like his crown, and I was like, wait a second, that can't be true.
you're
That
thinking
can't be
they're gonna try to
it. So I'm thinking
revive,
they might throw something in there. They might throw a little hint of
Mordekaiser's return?
Mordecai's return. But then I was like, there's no way. But then I was thinking about the last Act 2 where they have Mel in that one labyrinth place. Where they're the Black Rose is trying to have her open up, and I think she's opening up to try to get a weapon that they can use to fight against Mordecai.
Yeah, to fight against him. Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
for
why
sure.
I was kind of like, oh my gosh, it would be crazy if they even did that, or considered that, or even planned to do that.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that's what... I'm more than sure that that's what LeBlanc's trying to do, is get a weapon to fight Mordekaiser, because that's kind of like her whole thing. You know,
Right,
that's
yeah,
like the whole-
and that's, yeah,
yeah.
and I was just
It's just interesting, because in the show, it's like... You would think that everyone wants to stop Mordekaiser, you know what I mean?
It's been erased from the book, so they don't even know he's there. It's just
Yeah.
all stories of the Noxus Empire. That's just,
Yeah.
told hundreds of generations ago.
Yeah.
So,
I guess that's true. So people aren't even aware that it
they're
could
not.
potentially
It's
come
only
up.
like
Yeah.
2 people.
That makes sense. 'Cause, yeah, I was gonna say it almost is like similar to like Cassandra holding the Iceborne, or holding the deities from coming back. You know, all from the void and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of similar to that. That's interesting. Yeah. You got a lot of things to worry about on Runeterra. I'm not gonna lie. That's a lot
I tell you.
a lot of shit. Speaking of that, you know, side note, do we have another video we want to get into? Actually. Oh,
Jayce
shit.
and
I completely
Jayce, yeah.
skipped the Deceiver and
Yeah.
then went to LeBlanc's
We did.
plan.
We totally looked over that and saw that. I was like, this is his route, I guess. And here we
I
are.
completely got, you know what, we're still going to jump into this. 'Cause I'm very interested in like how Darius and Katarina kind of play into it on more of like a grounded level, which I imagine this is going to go into.
But you don't want to listen to Necrit as he describes. I'm just kidding.
Hey, man.
I know you're a big,
listen
huge
to-
Necrit fan.
I wouldn't say that.
Oh, Necrits. Ooh.
Yo,
Tell me more.
Low-key, it do be kind of funny sometimes when you guys, some of the people comment, and I'll see some people like,
Hey, come on now.
"Hey, you're the one that just went crazy."
Nah, bro, I'm talking to you.
Hey, man, hey. I'm just saying, like, we all go to each other for different lore, and Necrit is at the pinnacle of just understanding his craft, his field. You know
Yes,
what
for sure.
I mean? But there do be some crazy comments. I'd be seeing people that are like,
do seeing some.
by the
comments,
way,
yeah.
you know, Necrit said this, and I'd be like, that's cool, but I say, I say this. You know what I mean? Like, we can have opinions. You know what I mean?
I love
Like,
those. I love having
yeah,
my own
yeah.
opinions, and I have love in like thinking about my own like ideas of what I think they're planning on doing.
Yeah. It's fun stuff. Anyways,
But
you
Necrit,
distracted me.
okay,
what are we? We're supposed to be jumping. Okay, so
Yeah.
we're gonna jump in this Deceiver video.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like we might as well. Otherwise, I know someone's gonna comment and say, "Hey, you know, I like the video, but I'm sad that you didn't put this one part." It happens every video. There's always someone who's like, "Yeah, man, I really loving the content, man, but you know, you should have reacted to this also." Starting to feel like Necrit, people were expecting these 2-hour long
Hello everyone and welcome.
breakdowns. You know what I mean?
We talked
Yeah.
about Swain, the story that expanded his character, and the story that explained how Noxus works. Now
Yes.
it is time to cover the other 3 Noxians, Katarina,
Okay,
LeBlanc,
cool.
and Darius. When separated, their
Should
stories
definitely
aren't that
watch
long,
this one
so
second.
I decided to put all 3 of them
It's okay.
into one video.
You
So
can tell
let's
people
start
like, hey,
with the
fast forward this
oldest
part,
and most
go here,
mysterious
go
person,
back and watch
LeBlanc.
this.
Right.
Matron of the Black Rose.
Or just kidding, we won't do
LeBlanc's identity is as intangible as the
Or maybe.
whispers that describe her, as ephemeral as the illusions that give her shape. Perhaps it is unknown even to herself, after so many centuries of mimicry and deception. Remnants of an order that has existed far longer than Noxus itself. Initiates of the Black Rose have schemed from the shadows for centuries, drawing the rich and powerful to their ranks. Though they do not often learn the origins of their matron, many have uncovered legends of a pale sorceress who aided the broken barbarian tribes in their struggle against the infamous Iron Revenant subjugating lands already
forward through
ravaged by the Dark.
Yep.
Even today, his name is whispered in fear. Mordekaiser. Uniquely
Mordekaiser.
skilled among the Revenant's inner circle before she betrayed him, the sorceress pledged to neutralize the source of his power, the immortal Bastion, cutting him off from the well of death that fueled his nightmarish empire. Yet, even as the barbarians built an empire of their own in the Bastion's shadow, they failed to realize that the arcane secrets it held had not completely been locked away. The
Arcane
pale
secret.
sorceress had always been gifted at
Arcane.
illusion, and her
Spoiler.
greatest trick was to make
Secrets.
Noxus forget the dark power roiling in its own heart, before she was burned from the pages of history around the time of the Rune Wars. The Black Rose exists now to further clandestine interests of those who
Oh,
can
yeah, the
wield
Rune
such
Wars
magic,
that happened
with
back
its
then.
rank and file composed of mundane nobles, drawn to rumors of miracles, kept in thrall and ruthlessly exploited.
This is nice because this is
Even the
kind of
most
filling in gaps and
powerful
adding more
military commander
information.
could only ever serve
Yeah.
the cult's true masters, as they fight one another for influence in games of intrigue and conquest, both in the Noxian capital and beyond its borders. For centuries, LeBlanc has served in secret as an advisor to foreign dignitaries, appearing in many nations at once, her illusions driving order into chaos. Rumors of a new matron rising with each generation only raise further questions. Which is the true version of herself? When she speaks, is it her own voice? And what will be the price for the favor she offers? Borem Darkwill was but the latest to learn the last answer for himself. Though the Black Rose had aided his bid for the throne, he refused the counsel of their hand-picked advisors, requiring LeBlanc to take drastic measures, manipulating a young nobleman named Jero Swain into revealing the cult's involvement. LeBlanc allowed herself to be executed, along with the most prominent conspirators, or at least, so it appeared. In time, she reached out to Darkwill himself, and found an increasingly paranoid ruler, fearful of his own mortality. After promising him the secrets to extend his life, LeBlanc slowly poisoned Darkwill's mind, even as she empowered him. Under his rule, the Noxian reverence of strength became something far more sinister, and together they ensured Swain's legend would end in disgrace on the battlefields of Ionia.
Disgrace.
But
Yes.
Swain, embodied by forbidden lore from within the immortal bastion, did something wholly unexpected, managing to drag Darkwill from the throne and seize Noxus for himself. This new Grand General was not interested in his own legacy, but in the glory of the Empire, and such a man could not so easily be corrupted. After countless centuries, LeBlanc wondered, had she finally found a worthy nemesis? Her actions have pushed Runeterra to the brink of an all-out war many times. In the wake of desperate campaigns across the Freljord, the Targon's Peaks, and deep in Shurima's deserts, the darkest magic has begun to spread once more, circling closer and closer to Noxus. Whether
Every time I
LeBlanc is
think
still
about
the same
fast-forwarding,
pale
I'm like,
sorceress who betrayed the Iron
I hear some
Revenant,
kind of new
or merely
information.
one of countless hollow reflections, her
ear
influence
hole's getting
clearly
its,
stems from
it's fixed
ancient
right now.
roots.
Right.
The Black Rose has yet to truly bloom.
It's crazy in the show. Don't they say the Black Rose blooms again?
Noble family too? Okay.
Yeah, I honestly don't know anything about Katarina. Or, I can't say that, actually. I do know that she has a relationship with Garen. That's like a secret, and that's partially because this... or, I mean, it's not because this Lux book. I mean, they talk about a lot of Demasia's, you know...
Secret
talks mostly
affairs.
about... Yeah, it talks mostly about Lux and Garen and
Silas
underneath and all that good stuff. But you do kind of get, like, peeks at it. I think I read her lore, and it kind of talked about her and Garen and stuff like that. So I don't know where I read.
He has good taste. Redheads, you know. Firecrackers, man.
All right, let's jump in. I gotta listen.
Her younger sister Cassiopeia took after their politically brilliant mother. Katarina was very much her father's daughter, and the wily
Cassiopeia's
General
on the
Dukuto
Black
pushed
Rose.
her to learn the
Oh, she's
way
a
of the
snake.
blade, to
Yeah,
cut away the
okay.
Empire's enemies not with reckless brutality, but deadly precision. He was a harsh teacher with many pupils, and notoriously difficult to impress. So it was that Katarina's childhood, if it can be called such, had little room for kindness or rest.
Yeah, man, I had to pause it just because this man looks distressed. I can't look at him for the rest of her story and not say something. He looks like the dude off of Zelda. You know, the dude that kept the horse. I gotta find a photo and put it in this video.
Oh,
I'm gonna put it up on the screen.
The Luigi-looking dude?
The Luigi-looking dude. Look at this man. Haggard, bro. Okay.
Hey, man, he's a Noxian warrior that's still fighting, that's still doing his thing and commanding and training all the underlings and whatnot. So, I mean, it makes sense. He looks all beat up, scratched up, haggard.
I'm not gonna allow
I mean,
that excuse.
he's second character like Luigi. I'm just kidding.
Luigi's goat.
Scared of ghosts, dude.
Tolerance of pain. She
Everyone
stole
is.
poisons from the city's least reputable apothecaries, testing their efficiency in tiny increments upon herself, gradually building her resistance even as she catalogued their effects. She scaled the tallest towers in the dead of night, unseen by anyone. She yearned to do her part for Noxus. She yearned for an opportunity to demonstrate her hidden strength in service of the Empire and the throne. Her first mark came straight from her father, camped with his warbands on the eve of one of the military's innumerable westward invasions. She was to assassinate a line officer of the opposing army, a low-born wretch by the name of Demetrius. Katarina was livid. She hadn't trained her entire life to have her talents wasted on some dugheel barely skilled enough to swing a sword. He simply wouldn't do. Instead of her assigned target, Katarina stole into the enemy camp and slit the enemy commander's throat as he slept. It was a flawless execution. It would bring a swift victory and glory to Noxus. It would make her father proud. At dawn, his face was daubed with ashes. The vengeful hero Demetrius led a berserk charge into her father's encampment. Dozens of Noxian soldiers were slaughtered, along with the general's personal retinue. Katarina's father himself barely escaped with his life. He was furious beyond words, refusing to even look his daughter in the eye. She had shamed him and their family name. The greatest assassins do not seek recognition or glory, he reminded her. They do not expect to occupy a place of honor at their master's right hand. Overwhelmed, Katarina struck out into the wilderness, alone. She would complete her original mission. Demetrius would pay with his life. Even so, her mind swam. Could she ever forgive herself? How had she been so foolish? She was so distracted, she didn't see her attacker until he had nearly taken out her eye. For Katarina's failure, General Dooku Thor sent another of his protégés after her, a nameless whelp dragged up from one of the lesser assassins' guilds. But even with blood streaming down her face, the years of rigorous training kicked in, and her blades
It's really
were in
just
her
the
hands
blade
in
that
an
fucks.
instant.
Yeah, it's the blade.
6 hours later, she tossed Demetrius' severed head at her father's feet. She told the general she had considered taking his head instead, but eventually decided, as much as she hated to admit it, that he had done the right thing in ordering her death. She had failed, not just as an assassin or as a daughter, but as a Noxian. And failure must have its consequences. She ran her fingers along the raw deep mesh over her left eye and thought of the price others had to pay for her arrogance. She knew she had lost her father's favor and could never regain it. He would rise others in her place simply to spite her. Still, she vowed to redeem herself, no matter the cost, to rededicate her talents to the Empire, and to become the sinister weapon she always intended to be.
And Noxians are dedicated.
Hey man, it's a huge cause.
Darius and his brother Draven grew.
Okay, yeah, before they go into that. Yeah, Draven's like his brother, and they fought on the war line and stuff like that. And that's a whole other story, too. I thought about including Draven, too, but he seems like after Darius got promoted up, it seems like they kind of separated, and now Draven's more like the flashy.
Yeah,
the
he has
flashy
his
one.
own arena and stuff like that.
Yeah, doing
Does his
some
own thing.
craziness. It's crazy because Katarina actually ends up meeting, going to the castle in Demacia to assassinate, assassinate the leader or whatever. And she ends up running into Lux, and then she's going to kill Lux, and then she ended up deciding not to kill Lux. Yeah, and it's a whole crazy thing, and they decide to like spare her, and it's a whole craziness. So I'm wondering if that's the exact same story where she goes into, if that's the exact same moment, I mean, where she goes into like try to kill that person.
Darius.
Yeah. Or not Darius, but
All the D's.
Draven, Darius, fucking yeah. Good book, y'all. Good book. If y'all and I'm getting sidetracked. I'm always about to start reading it. If you haven't checked this out, I'd highly recommend this. It was just hard to find, to be honest. I found Ash on Amazon, but Lux, I could not find that, so I had to buy it from actually a comic book shop.
We're on the east side.
Yeah. So, all right, let's jump into this.
From the east side, you lucky.
Grew up as orphans in the port city of Basilish. Darius struggled to provide for them both, constantly fighting with gangs of urchins and anyone else who threatened his little brother, even the city guard. Every day on the streets was a battle for survival.
I'm gonna need that.
And Darius earned more scars by his 12th summer than some soldiers in a lifetime. After Basilisk was seized by the expanding Noxian Empire, the victorious commander Cyrus saw the strength in these defiant brothers, and they found a home within the ranks of his war host. Over the years, they fought in many grueling campaigns of conquest from one end of the known world to the other, as well as crushing a number of rebellions against the throne. Within the Empire, anyone could rise to power, no matter their birth, culture, or background, and none embraced this ideal more fervently than Darius. From
Draven definitely gives off little
he
brother
rose
vibes.
steadily through ranks, always
Fucking
putting duty before
always
all
going
else,
headfirst
and
into a lot
garnering
of
great
stuff.
respect for his aggression, discipline, and refusal to ever take a backward step. On the blood-soaked fields of the Delamore Plain, he even
that's a
beheaded
crazy
a
image.
Noxian general after the coward ordered a retreat. Roaring in defiance and hefting his bloodied axe overhead, Darius rallied the scattered warbands and won a great and unexpected victory against far more numerous foe. He was rewarded with a senior command of his own, attracting many thousands of eager recruits from across the Empire. Darius turned the majority away, accepting only the strongest, the most disciplined and iron-willed. Such was his fearsome notoriety, even in the lands beyond Noxus, that it was not uncommon for entire cities to surrender at the first sight of his banners. After a grinding victory against the Cloud Fortress of Varju, a proud warrior people who had resisted decades of Noxian aggression, Darius was named the Hand of Noxus by the Emperor Borem Darkwill himself. Those who knew Darius best knew he craved neither power nor adulation. He wished merely to see Noxus triumph over all, so Darkwill ordered him and his war hosts far north into the Freljord, to finally bring the barbarian tribes to heel. The campaign dragged for years, ending in a bitter icy stalemate. Darius narrowly survived assassination attempts, ambushes, and even capture by the vicious Winter's Claw. He was growing wary of endless wars of attrition, and returned to Noxus to demand a reconsolidation of the military. He marched his veterans into the capital, only to find that the Emperor was dead, killed in a coup led by Jero Swain. The act had been supported by many allies, including Darius' own brother, Draven. This was a difficult position. As Hand, many of the noble houses would expect Darius to avenge Darkwill, but he had known and greatly respected the disgraced General Swain, and had spoken against his discharge after the botched offense in Ionia some years earlier. The oaths of the Hand were to Noxus, not any particular ruler, and Swain was a man who spoke honestly of his new vision for the Empire. Darius realized this was a leader he was prepared to follow, but Swain had other ideas. With the establishment of the Triforix, 3 individuals would rule Noxus together, each embodying one principle of strength, vision, might, and guile. Darius gladly accepted his place in this council, and pledged to rise a new elite force, the Trifarian Legion, the most loyal and prestigious warriors the Empire could produce, and led the armies of Noxus into a glorious new age of conquest.
Jeez.
And those were the stories of LeBlanc, Katarina, and Darius. For now, that's it for Noxus. It seems like these stories are tying really well into past events. I am pretty sure I heard the mention of a magical well in Noxus, and it might even be part of our Darkin theory. On top of that, it seems like LeBlanc was one of Mordekaiser's followers. That is, before she betrayed him. She might have even been the one who stole away his skull. Also, Katarina's story is mainly about her father, so I wonder how Talon falls into this. Maybe he was the assassin who was supposed to kill her. But that's something for another time. So if you enjoyed this video, feel free to rate it and subscribe for more news and lore. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Discord if you'd like to
follow all his stuff. Yeah, I'm glad that we went through that video as well. I feel like Mordekaiser would have fit in here, but I feel like this video is already going to be like an hour and something, and I'm just like, you know, which I do want to say, actually I do want to throw this in now. We just launched our Patreon officially, so, you know, obviously there's certain things like Arcane, the episodes, where there's so much great music from League of Legends that there's no way that we can get around all the copyrights and stuff like that. So
not at all.
Not at all. So like at least half of the video or half of the episodes are being cut out because we just can't get around copyrights, and we're having to go through multiple drafts even before we can publish it. They would be coming out sooner, but obviously it takes a certain amount of time to upload, see if it goes through, pull it back down, cut it again, upload it. So yeah, if you guys do want to get videos faster, I usually try to
the full uncut videos that everyone would love to see.
Exactly. I usually try to export, you know, especially right now they're releasing in 3 episodes, export 1, 2, and 3 at the same time, set up the intros and outros, and then upload them to Patreon right away, you know, and then go through afterwards and then cut them up and then upload them to YouTube, just because I know that's going to take longer. So yeah, if you want the uncut full versions faster, then go check out our Patreon. And we would just appreciate it as far as, you know, just building our company and what we want to do. Obviously we do lore videos, obviously we do a bunch of reactions, but we have our whole own universe and characters and things like that we're trying to build, and really just trying to build a comic book, anime, and geek culture company in general. Get guest celebrities on here, who knows, travel to different places. We go to Comic Cons and stuff already, and different anime conventions for this stuff. So yeah, man, a lot of things we want to do with this channel to really build it up to be the best it can be. So if you guys want to support that, we would appreciate you, and it would help us actually put out videos on YouTube faster, and more content, so we can bring in editors and we can do a bunch more things to just speed up the process and the production value and everything. So I feel like we got to cut this video. I feel like it's too long.
Not at all.
Video has to
because
be
this is what the people want, and we are going to answer the people.
Yeah, man. I mean, gotta have a life at some point, you know. I gotta do something.
That life is over, dude.
Forget your life. Yeah, man. First question: Darius and Garen. Who you guys got? From what I know, they're pretty much exactly even from like the lores and things that I read. But I want to know your guys' personal opinion. Do you think one is who do you think is gonna win in that battle? 2 out of 3 times. Yeah.
I think definitely experience does have a high key to a lot of things, but a dedication to the cause and what you're fighting for, Darius all the way.
You haven't read Garen?
Darren is just a hothead. He'll join.
No, Garen. Garen from Demacia. This dude.
Oh, Garen. I thought
Yeah,
you said Darren.
Yeah, Darren?
Darren.
You think you're Draven, his brother?
Okay, I did get those mixed up. I guess you're right.
Who the fuck
Maybe
is
I
Darren?
need a life or something like that.
Oh, Darren. That's a
I guess I'm
casual
not
name.
giving the people what they want.
No, but Garen out of Demacia, they always
Yeah.
go head up, and they respect
Oh.
each other. From what I know, it's just one of those rivalries.
Darius, hold still. I'm still picking Darius.
That's because you just got a whole plethora of information. You know, we'll
Darius,
get there. We'll get there
all
eventually.
the way.
Let me know your guys' thoughts on that. I'd be very interested. And I'm thinking we'll go into another video of the Black Rose specifically and talk about Cassiopeia, talk about Spider Girl,
Mordecai.
and then Vladimir. Yeah, maybe we can throw the Mordekaiser video in that. Possibly. These videos are long, man. I want these to be like somewhere like 40 minutes, an hour and 20. It's just crazy work, man. Crazy work. Let us know what else you guys want us to kind of dive into. We already have plans on talking about more characters from Piltover and Zahn. Oriana probably, Blitzcrank.
Definitely Chase and Victor.
Jayce and Victor will be there on separate video, and then maybe Jana in that one. Just like, as far as like Piltover and Zahn lore. Oh yeah, we got a bunch of plans, you guys. You guys will see it all as it comes out. And I think maybe some of like the side characters like Jana and Oriana and all that stuff. Maybe we'll just put that on Patreon exclusives. I don't really know yet. We'll figure it out, man. But that's all I got.
Time will tell.
Yes,
and
it does.
until then, we will see you next time.
All right, y'all. Much love. Peace.